Welcome to Albuquerque Housing Authority Update. I'm your host, Brian Egan, attorney for Albuquerque Housing Authority. With me today we have our two guests, Matthew Archuleta, Public Housing Program Manager, and Dan Foster, Capital Fund Program Manager. Welcome.
Hey, Brian.
So Dan, what's new at Albuquerque Housing Authority for 2018?
Well, our big news is we have a ribbon cutting tomorrow. So it's our first development in over 30 years. We partnered with Wishrock Housing Partners on the acquisition and rehabilitation of a property known as Rio Vista Apartments at 770 Juan Tabo. That's right near the intersection of Lomas and Juan Tabo.
It's right next to Manzano High School.
That's right.
And so who are the tenants at Rio Vista Apartments?
This property is restricted for seniors.
And it also serves persons with disabilities, right?
It does. We have a set-aside, part of our financing commitment with the Mortgage Finance Authority in New Mexico was to set aside a certain number of units for individuals with disabilities.
And what's happened at Rio Vista Apartments over the last year?
A lot's happened. It was a complete remodel of all the units, so they got new flooring, new appliances, they had new cabinetry. Basically, they have new units interior. In terms of the building overall systems, we installed a state-of-the-art new heating cooling system. We have solar panels. We completely repainted the exterior, did stucco patching, added patios to all of the first floor units. The upper floors had patios, but the first floors did not. We completely re-landscaped it with drought-tolerant plants, more suitable for New Mexico.
So now it's a water-efficient building instead of being surrounded by acres of grass that they weren't using anyways.
That's right. Yeah, and we met the standard for enterprise green building criteria. So that's a whole package of different green building measures. They look at the indoor air quality, so we're using low VOC paints, formaldehyde-free wood products. We eliminated, there's no smoking within the building, within 25 feet of the building.
So it's a smoke-free residence.
It is a smoke-free residence. Mm-hmm. And, very energy efficient, going to be much more comfortable for the tenants.
So it'll be a better place to live, and it'll be cheaper to operate because they'll have lower electric bills, lower heating bills, lower water bills, and people will be able to go between the floors faster with the new elevator, right?
Yep. It's not a new elevator, but it is modernized elevator. So all the main functional equipment was upgraded. Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's important here, Brian, is that we maintain the subsidy. Right now there is a contract with HUD, and it's a project-based Section 8 property. They also added another layer of affordable housing on it. But the nice thing is we're able to keep 75 units of project-based Section 8 here, which is critical because in a lot of other markets, that is actually, they're just leaving. And so when this particular developer and owner came in, they could have easily said, we want to make this a market property.
And then the affordability would have been lost. The
Absolutely.
75 elderly disabled tenants would have been like, well, where will I live on Social Security or disability? I can't afford to rent in the private market.
Right. And so the nice thing is that we were able to maintain that subsidy and layering it with another affordable program, which they marry each other really well. Makes it easier to do compliance and to maintain the residents there.
And what is that other program?
It's a low-income housing tax credit, and it's an IRS program. The developer gets a tax credit for maintaining that, for keeping it in a certain income bracket.
So we have the low-income housing tax credit as a capital fund subsidy that helps cover the repair of the building, and then we have the affordability component for operating with the project-based Section 8 rental assistance from the Housing Urban Development Department. And they work together to create a forever home for our elderly disabled tenants. They can live there the rest of their lives as long as they follow the lease.
You're absolutely correct. And you know that the property was ripe. I mean, it was built in 1979. It's a good time to do a rehab. I had been in the property about 15 years ago and it was well maintained. But infrastructure gets old. You know, the heating gets old, the cooling gets old, the chillers. So when it's time, it's time, and it was time, and it's a good development. It's good for the community as well as good for the housing authority.
And so this created jobs for more than a year in terms of construction work, right, Dan?
It did. Before we go off of the Section 8 contract, I just want everybody to make sure that they understand what that actually means for residents. You know, for the property itself, it means we have consistent cash flow because there's basically a guaranteed rent payment as long as we have a person qualified living in that unit. What it means for that tenant, though, is that tenant only pays 30% of their income.
So say they're getting by on $1,000 a month in Social Security, their rent would be $300 a month for their one-bedroom apartment rather than a higher market price of like $600 a month.
Right. And so we have, a lot of seniors that are just living on very limited fixed incomes. That makes this, the Section 8 contract makes this property affordable to them.
And it's a great place to live because the Housing Authority has also paired up some support services there, right, Dan?
Yeah, we have a full-time service coordinator that's on site 5 days a week. And at this point, she's been there for,
many years?
Many years, more than 5 years. So all the residents know her. She has a great rapport with the residents. There's a, much stronger sense of community than I've seen in a lot of other developments. So.
And the mobile food pantry comes there. Our partners bring fresh food and canned food there for the residents that aren't able to go out to go shopping at stores. They don't have cars. They can at least get food on site.
Yes, Silver Horizons provides a food pantry, and they go there once a month.
And there's no charge for that food.
That's correct. That's free for those seniors. Yep.
And also, this project has on-site management, right?
Yes, and they've had the same manager for years, and here again the management company that was in place, as I knew it 15 years ago, had been there for a long time. So it's well established. It's got, they take care of their residents. It's a good resident base, and they get the HUD funding. The service coordinator Dan was talking about is funded through HUD, which is something that the Housing Authority would like to do on some of our properties. Unfortunately, some of that money is dried up, but any application we look for, that's what we're going to apply for. But they've had it in place, and HUD continues funding that, and so that's an excellent opportunity for the tenants as well as for the property.
And so if someone wants to be a tenant at Rio Vista Apartments, they should apply directly at the office there at 770 Wantabo Boulevard Northeast.
That's correct.
Yes.
And the Albuquerque Housing Authority does not handle admissions for that.
No.
It's privately managed.
It's privately managed, correct.
And then going forward, Matthew, for the public housing program that for the units AHA owns directly in that program, AHA does handle the admissions for that, right?
Yes, for all of our properties. In fact, that's a good kind of parlay into one of our other subjects, which is the regional offices, effective or starting July 1st, and right now we're in the planning stages of going to a regional office where we can actually be out on site. We're kind of an anomaly in terms of property management to where we have 953 units that are spread across 26 different properties. You look at another agency like Tulsa where they have 4,000 units, they only have 17 properties. So they're well primed to have site managers. We weren't. We had to kind of look at how we can hybrid that. So what we've got is we've got 5 regional offices that will be opening July 1st.
And they'll be spread out all over the city.
Spread out in the different areas,
Instead
correct.
of going to our one main office at 1840 University Boulevard Southeast near Gibson, which is the current operating procedure to renew your lease or go through the admissions process, people that live in our public housing units will be able to go to an office that's on site or near their site.
They'll be able to do business either near their property or on site. And we've looked at the 5 regional offices. We're also going to have a few satellite offices, but they can do all their property management business at these offices. The offices are going to have anywhere from 2 properties to 5 properties reporting to that particular office. It's been a long time in coming. The good thing is we're taking the services out to the tenants where it needs to be. When we started looking at this 3 or 4 years ago, we saw that, give you an example, one of our properties, it takes 80 minutes to get to our central office by bus. And a number of our residents don't have a vehicle, and so they have to take the bus.
Because we serve low-income clients. A lot of them are elderly, disabled, they can't drive anymore,
exactly right.
They can't see well enough to drive, or they don't have enough money to be able to operate a car anymore.
And so, we're going out to where we need to be. It's going to be much better for all the residents. It's going to be better for the properties, and we're going to be there 8 to 5 every day.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. It's going to make us more efficient, and it's going to be a much better use of federal dollars to take care of our properties.
So it'll be a better way to manage property. They'll get faster services, and it'll be cheaper in the long run to have people on site rather than having to go out every day to do maintenance and drive from the main office to go repair a toilet and then drive back to the main office.
Well, and that's the thing that we looked at how much time are we not spending at the properties, but we're spending in drive time. And we're spending a lot of time in drive time. And how much time is it taking for the tenants to come to our office when we really should be servicing them at their site? And that's the thing about this. HUD mandated this about 10 years ago. We're a little bit behind, but we're going to be there. But that's just the way a regular apartment complex operates. You know, as we mentioned, Rio Vista, they have their office, they have their maintenance, everything is all within that property. And that's the model we're going to, is basically what's industry standards. And so we're looking forward to it. We've been planning it for almost 6 months now, if not actually longer than that, because we've been doing little things to work up towards that. We do have some offices that are open right now, but they're on a limited basis.
By appointment mainly.
By appointment at some of the offices, and some of the other offices will be out there for the day, 1 day or 2 days a week. So we do have some limited services and limited office time, but not every area has an office. And so that's the other thing we're working on, is get an office in every area so that we can take care of, really do property management, which is what we do. We have assets, and our assets are the facilities and our tenants. And it's critical that we take care of them, and we make sure that we're taking care of everybody involved.
And speaking of preservation of housing, Rio Vista Apartments is a great example of preserving affordable housing. We're also working to preserve our government-owned public housing units as well, right?
Correct.
And so, Dan, what are some of the great things that are coming in 2018 to help preserve and extend the useful life of our public housing so it can be forever homes for our elderly and disabled tenants that choose to stay, and for our families that need them for now?
Well, we've been we started in July working on what's called the Energy Performance Contract. And basically what that is it's a package of energy conservation measures, and they vary by property. But typical things are low flow fixtures, so the faucets and the shower heads are both low flow. We swapped out a number of toilet assemblies for low flow toilets. We did some high efficiency domestic hot water heaters, furnaces. The big projects that were just coming online on one building right now on our property on Gibson, Wainwright Manor, we installed solar panels on the roof, and either today or tomorrow, hopefully, P&M will be throwing the switch, and so they'll be live online. And then on our other tower property, Embudo Towers, 8010 Constitution, we're also installing solar panels. And on both of those properties, we're also redoing the main heating cooling system on those.
And I think one of the things that's important to talk when we talk about our energy performance contract is that it's pretty much money neutral. In other words, we get a loan and we pay that back with the savings from everything we've done, from all the energy savings. And we've gone LED lighting on everything, on exteriors, on all interiors. Some of our bigger properties, in Embudo Towers, for example, where we have fluorescent lights that are on 24/7, LED lighting in there. And so the nice thing is here again, we want to be good stewards of the federal money. So we're able to get a loan on this and then pay it back with the savings.
So instead of buying electricity from P&M, we'll generate our own power with our solar panels.
Correct.
Instead of buying lots of fluorescent light bulbs, we'll buy light-emitting diodes that last much longer, and so we recover the costs. So we're doing things in a better manner, and it's cheaper to operate that way in the long run.
Right. It's more efficient. It's energy efficient, both with water and both with electricity and gas. The furnaces that we installed, I think, were the 90% efficient furnaces. And we got good quality water heaters here again that I don't remember the percentage on them, but we're getting the higher quality appliances that will last longer and that'll be more energy efficient.
And also being efficient with our resources. We have achieved 97% occupancy in 2017 for our public housing units. We rarely have anything vacant, and if it's vacant, it's because it's going through repairs and retrofits to be more efficient when the tenants do move back in.
Correct, and right now, one of the other kind of remodeling things we're going through is the Uniform Federal Accessibility Standards, which is making the UFAS, which is making. I think we're going to be 48 when we're done wheelchair accessible. We'll have
49 units. One of those units will not technically be certifiable because just the sidewalk going to it has a little too steep of a slope. But by July we'll have This whole energy performance contract, all that stuff will be wrapped up. We should have 49 units that are fully handicap accessible.
And these are government-owned public housing units administered by AHA. Out of our 953 units citywide, we'll have about almost 50 of them, and they'll be spread out in various locations around the city. And we do have an admissions preference for persons with disabilities.
Well, and we actually opened up the wait list for wheelchair accessible units back in November. And so we have
2017.
a number. Yes, so we have a number of applicants that are on there. And the key thing is they need to be able to utilize the facility. So it needs to be someone that's wheelchair accessible. And also, we didn't add that we're going to also have an additional probably 10 to 15 units that are for the hearing impaired and the visually impaired. So that some of the things you would do would be for the hearing impaired would be a smoke detector that's a strobe light, and a doorbell that's a strobe light, so that they can be warned of either people at the door or the smoke detector, if there is a fire or something like that. So
you can have a bed shaker that shakes the bed if you can't hear things.
Different ways. So we're ramping up, the apartments so that we can be more accessible to people that really need the apartments. We have anywhere from 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom. We have some 5 bedroom apartments that are going to be wheelchair accessible.
Because the Housing Authority has a wide variety of dwelling units. We have tower units with 1 bedroom units. We have 2-story townhomes with 2 bedrooms upstairs. We have 3, 4, and 5 bedroom houses. But it's multifamily. They're all in groups of some sort or another.
Right. Our smallest property, we have a few houses, but our smallest property is 14 apartments, 14 units, and our largest being 101 units.
That's in Budo Towers, the ones that are getting the new solar panels.
Correct.
And the nice thing about living in the big tower properties is sometimes there's on-site meal service as well.
And there's some additional services. They've got a big meeting room where they can have meetings, and they're starting doing some art programs over there, and we'll have some trainers and other. We have fraud prevention will be coming in April, and some different things that we're
The
able to
Bookmobile
do.
comes from the public library to help
Right.
tenants that can't
So
make it out to the library.
There's a few more amenities that we have at those properties, and so it's always nice to bring in the amenities and get them there. So.
And to better serve our clients, in 2017 we hired 10 new employees, and then here in 2018 we've got an opening here in January for 3 new office assistants coming, right?
Right, and what that's going to really entail is they're all going to go on site. So each regional office is going to have a property manager and an office assistant. In the past, we've just had, we've called them housing specialists. Basically, they're property managers at the main office. Well, when they're out sick, there's nobody to fill in for them, or if they take a vacation. Now, we felt the importance that we need to maintain the flow of the property.
There'll be backup.
So there will be backup, and that was the whole point in kind of reorganizing the way that we do property management. And like I say, that's nothing different than, it's different for us, but if you go out to the industry, that's a standard. There's always backup. You've always got someone. And that's where we're going to be.
And when the sites were built in the 70s and 80s, some of them actually had property management offices built into the original buildings. So it was intended at Embudo Towers that there be an office with staff. It was intended at Wainwright there'd be an office with staff. It was intended at Los Altos there'd be an office with staff.
Right, and it was mainly where the senior disabled properties are. All of those have offices. And so that's been another one of our challenges, is that we've actually asked HUD, and they've given it to us to take certain apartments offline.
Just a few.
So that, only a few, so that we can have an office there. And the critical need is it's better to have the office right there on site, so someone can walk into our office and say, my sink is leaking, rather than have to make a phone call. And then we can go back and get it taken care of, and we can check up. We can do quality control and make sure things are being taken care of the way they should be. So,
and it's easier to monitor what's going on when you're at the property.
Absolutely. It's going to be much better for all the tenants. It's going to be better for the properties and better for the neighbors. If we have issues going on at the properties, we'll be able to take care of them right away. Anybody who's lived in an apartment complex knows that your property manager is there, your maintenance is there, and if you need to do business with them, when they're open and when you can go talk to them. So.
And then for after-hours service, we do have an after-hours line people can call right now.
Yes.
And if it's for routine maintenance, they can also file a form through our website and say, I've got a dripping faucet. Would you come by sometime in the next month to fix that?
Correct. And the after-hours line works well, as we know. But that's really for emergencies.
Right,
The after-hour
yeah.
lines is for
Broken
major-
pipe, it's flooding the kitchen.
Exactly, exactly. If your heater's not working and it's 10 degrees outside, that's an emergency.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so we do have that. We will continue that. But we feel like it's going to really make it's going to make the properties work much better, and it's going to be better customer service.
And in terms of good service as well, in 2017, more than 225 households moved into public housing. That's how we're giving towards our occupancy of 97%, and thousands of inspections were completed as well last year.
Well, and the unique thing is they put a lot of housing vouchers, and a lot of our existing tenants in public housing were also on the list for the vouchers. So it kind of had a domino effect. When they'd get their voucher from public housing, they'd move in with their voucher, and that would enable us to open up or to bring people in off of the waiting list and move them in. So 225 is higher than average. I don't anticipate we'll have that many in years to come. Normally we're looking at 170, 180 with normal attrition.
Out of the 950 units.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that was a higher than average, but that was also made possible because of the housing choice vouchers being issued.
Right, 236 housing choice vouchers for privately owned houses and apartments were issued last year by Albuquerque Housing
Right.
Authority out of our 4,000 vouchers total. So we have some turnover. Last year, about 236 households left the program, and 236 households came into the program out of the 4,000 vouchers. And those privately owned houses and apartments can be located anywhere in all of the city of Albuquerque or unincorporated Bernalillo County or in Rio Rancho.
Yeah, as long as they're meeting the fair market rents, then that's exactly right. They can be anywhere within the metro, basically the Albuquerque area.
And it's a housing choice voucher because it's the tenant's choice of where to rent. So they could choose they want to go to Rio Rancho Public Schools, or they need to live near the base because they work at the labs, or their mother's on the east side, they want to live near their mother, or they need to be near the daycare center on the west side.
And they still have the subsidy. They're still paying 30% of their adjusted income, which is what they'll pay in public housing. And the difference is that we own the public housing units, but they pay 30% of their adjusted income, which is the same thing at Rio Vista. At Rio Vista, the tenants are paying 30% of their adjusted income. And that's good for Albuquerque. That's good for an economy that's not moving very well these days.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good for people who need the housing. And the people that we serve, probably 35 to 40% of them are on disability. So, you know, a number of the people are people who just really can't work or don't have the ability to work. We have a number of working families. And, you know, I've seen households where the mother and father both work, but they're making maybe minimum wage. And it's just our economy. And it's nice that we have the ability to assist people so that they can, you know, get where they need to be and have a roof over the head for their kids.
With the 5,000 households we're serving, between the roughly 1,000 households in public housing and the 4,000 housing choice vouchers, we're preventing homelessness for 5,000 households at a time.
Exactly. And we don't have the figures on how many we take out of homelessness, but I've got to say, you know, I mentioned that we had a lot of people that moved from public housing to vouchers last year, but it wasn't all of them. It was maybe a third of them at the most, probably a quarter of them. But when you start looking at the people that, you know, when we bring them in, they're living with family, or they're in a shelter, or they're living with friends, or they're what we call couch surfing.
Right.
They're going from place to place, and you know, we've moved in people who are living in cars. It's just the way things are today. But that's what we do, is we're out to help. Yeah.
And our mission is to provide affordable housing and self-sufficiency opportunities. And with our Family Self-Sufficiency Program, we did have someone graduate from that program last year, where they'd gone through our 5-year program to move from welfare to work into home ownership. And we recruited 14 new individuals to volunteer to choose to be on our Family Self-Sufficiency Program. You have to be a current tenant in public housing or Section 8 and say, you know what, I want to earn more money, I want to pay more per month, I want to get out of here, and I want to own my own home. They sign a written contract with our Family Self-Sufficiency Program coordinator who works on this full-time, and they go to classes every month. After 5 years, they've been paying more each month. They got a job, they graduate from college, and they've moved out of all welfare programs. If they fulfill all those goals, they can graduate, and we pay out the escrow, and they can use it as a down payment on a house. And one of our staff even, Patty McKenzie, a Section 8 program housing specialist, started off as a single mom, unemployed, on rental assistance. We were paying the whole rent. Then she gradually started earning more money, paying more towards the rent, and graduated to home ownership and full-time employment. And she even comes to work at the agency now. And she has great compassion for the clients because she used to be the client on the other side of the desk. Now she's the administrator.
Right, and here again, that's what it's all about. You know, I hear people complaining about saying that people who are immigrants get free housing, and that's not true. I mean, you have to be here legally to
We check.
participate. That's exactly right. If you're not here legally, you don't get the subsidy, and that's just the way the federal government works. But we do check that.
Yeah, we go through Homeland Security and check their numbers.
They have to bring in documentation, and we go through Homeland Security, and there's a database we get into. So it really is to help the people that really need the help out there. And like I say, a number of our people, I checked some statistics on our elderly disabled properties, and probably 40 to 45% of that population is disabled. So we do have a disabled population here that we're serving.
And one of our special populations that we take great care with is our Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program, the VASH vouchers, and we've served 228 U.S. military veterans through the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Rental Assistance Program, our partnership with the VA last year.
Right, and they go through the VA to get into that particular program, and we basically provide the voucher, and then they move them. Yeah.
We're helping to solve the problem of chronic long-term veteran homelessness in the United States. Specifically here in the city of Albuquerque, those 228 vouchers are for veterans that were living on the streets of Albuquerque.
Correct.
And then our Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance Program overall received a high performer rating from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development last year. Our CMAP score, Section 8 Management Assessment Program score, was high performer for the first time in many years, and we're striving to maintain that every year going forward.
Exactly. And the one thing that does is that provides more funding for us. There's certain incentives that HUD puts out there that if you can meet those incentives, you can get more funding. You can apply for more grants. We talked about the service coordinator grant. The Rio Vista has a service coordinator. We haven't been able to apply for that. We're hoping that in the near future we'll be in a position that we can apply for those grants because of our scores and our ratings, and that's what we're working towards.
And if people would like to apply for admission to one of our programs, please visit our website, abqha.org, abqha.org. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Albuquerque Housing Authority Update.